Hello everyone, welcome to Fishin, the podcast where we discuss Modern's most competitive tribe and help the whole community become better Merfolk players. I'm Kody, one of the co-hosts of this show, and not Kody Smith on Twitter. And we also have, as always, Matt. How you doing, Matt?
I'm actually not too bad. A little tired. Was gone for a 4-day weekend. Went up to Canton, Ohio for the Sports Ball Hall of Fame ceremony. So got back recently and had to go back to work today because I'm one of those dummies that forgets to take the extra day off, especially after your 5 a.m. flight. But I'm here. I'm going to do my best to stay awake and be somewhat entertaining.
Was it European soccer? Was that what you were watching?
Actually, it was lingerie, powder puff, foosball.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds like a legitimate sport. I'm definitely interested in that. You can find us everywhere, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, as at FishcastMTG, so we'd love to talk to you on those platforms. You listen, subscribe wherever you find us, and rate and subscribe in all those little stores that you find us on all the live streaming stuff. That really helps us a bunch, and it costs you 0 space bucks, so we appreciate your support in that fashion.
And I'm pretty sure if you do that, you get entered into some kind of a contest, right?
Well, we're doing a contest. Yes. So there's a contest. It's pinned to our Twitter to win this shiny Invocation Vindicate. I'm holding it up so that Matt can and our special guest can see it.
Oh man, that is glory. Like almost an MP Vindicate. It looks so nice.
I'm wafting it in my face so I can smell the subtle hints of cherry and oak.
Damage done to the card.
Yeah, it's just from me staring at it for so long that it got a dent. But so yeah, enter that contest. We've had over 300 entries, which is amazing. And so thank you guys all for entering that contest. We love to give this out. And then
I look forward to it because next week I'm going to read all 300 names live on air.
I'm not going to let him do that.
That's just going to be our entire show.
Just a list of names.
But all 300 will show up just to listen to their name be called.
I doubt it. And you could also support us on patreon.com/fishcastmtg, where for as little as $1 a month you get access to our Discord. At $2 a month you get access to the show ad free, and then there's only more perks and rewards after that. So supporting us for even $1 helps us more than we've gotten in ad revenue, which I think we're up to maybe $4.50 now. In ad money, and we can't withdraw anything until $10. So it's doing a lot. Yeah, womp. We're not even getting interest on it. It's great. So we'd like to give a quick shout out to our new patron, Mason. So
Yay,
thank you, Mason.
Mason.
Yep. Thank you so much, Mason, for supporting the show and joining us on our Discord server where we get to talk about Merfolk and other Merfolk happenings. Let's get right into introducing our guest, because I'm sure our guest would love to help us discuss the random Merfolk that we've got coming up. We've got a pretty special guest on, a Merfolk YouTuber and streamer who's done lots and lots of good for the Merfolk community. Probably, I think maybe the first Merfolk content creator. So it's really cool to have.
Oh, definitely.
It's really cool to have Nikachu on the show. How's it going, Nikachu?
Oh, it's going great. I'm really excited. It's like PPTQ season. I'm not even a pro anymore, so I have to try really hard to get back onto the pro tour. To make my dream really at this point is to get Merfolk. For me to represent Merfolk on a modern pro tour, I've been desperately trying to get there, but I could never do extremely well in the. I could make a million top 8s, but I couldn't win a single PPTQ. And unfortunately, all my RPTQs that I went to while I was a pro weren't for the modern pro tour. So, but it's modern season. All these modern PPTQs, win that, go into a modern RPTQ, win that, go to the modern pro tour at the beginning of the year.
We'll always be pulling for you, watching you on stream. I know that sometimes the game stores that you go to do stream some of those, so it is cool watching you. Do. It is cool watching you in I guess in your natural state, playing with like actual Magic cards, and which is crazy because you're always on MTGO. So, but yeah, welcome to the show.
If you're not watching this guy's content, you're doing something wrong. Why the heck are you listening to us and not watching Nikachu? So, Go out there, like, subscribe, and I mean, he just puts on amazing stuff. I was actually following your stuff prior to even podcasting or even caring about Merfolk at all. So it was actually good research for me when Kody asked me to do a podcast with him on a deck that I don't play.
All right, so because we had Mason join us as a patron, he picked the random Merfolk, and he actually picked 2 random Merfolk that we've done in the past. So he picked Docra Mystic and Jade Bearer, which are just it was really funny to like look up the random number that he gave me and like go like and have to like dig through all the Google Docs to see which ones because they felt like ones that we'd done, and I was like, we can't recycle just yet.
You can like actually just take them out of the sample and just shrink the number down.
Yeah, I'm going to do that this weekend at some point.
Okay.
I'm going to sit there and actually just make like a separate doc that has just the ones we've picked. So that way I don't have to do all that work next time. Yeah, I definitely do it the hard way first. Then once I learn the how to do it the easy way, then I do it the easy way.
If you'd like me to show you how to work an Excel spreadsheet, I can do that for you.
Would you please?
Show me too. I have no idea how to use this program.
Next week's episode, something Excel.
Yeah.
Something Office, the Microsoft Excel series.
It's Matt's time to shine. He knows that Microsoft suite.
So the random Merfolk that Mason picked was Merfolk number 38. And Nikachu, would you like to read the random card this week?
Denizen of the Deep. It's a blue, 6 colorless. It's a serpent. This counts as a Merfolk. When Denizen of the Deep enters the battlefield, return each other creature you control to its owner's hand. It's an 11/11.
All right.
I don't get this card.
So actually, the reason we keep it in here is that Kody has it filtered down to any card that actually is a Merfolk or references Merfolk.
According to Merfolk legend, a Denizen of the Deep swallows the horizon at the end of each day, bringing on the cold blanket of night.
Yep. So
look after that flavor text.
So I mean, I don't know if this definitely probably wouldn't see very much modern play, I guess, unless you were gonna like Denizen Shoal or something like that. I don't know why you would do that. But
yes, some sort of shoaling effect. Well, it has a very unique effect. I mean, it returns all other creatures you control to your hand. So, I mean, I don't know right now what could combo with this, but something could, because it is a really big creature, and maybe somehow you can use another creature in combination with this to chain something together.
No, what this is a really big wiener. If anybody is looking at the art, I'm sorry, Jim Prevalak, you drew a very flaccid, very hentai-ish wiener.
Yeah, there's also tentacles too. I don't know.
And it's staring at me. It's looking at my soul.
Knows it's hentai.
Yeah, but see,
I feel a little fairy girl is screaming right now and trying to get away.
Well, so the reason why I don't think that this could really see play in like a shoal effect deck in modern, like where you're cheating it out, is it doesn't have any sort of evasion. Like there's no trample, there's no flying, and that's why you get things like Grizzlebrand and Emrakul and all that sort of thing that have just like game breaking effects. And yes, while this bounces everything back to your opponent's hand and all your other creatures,
it doesn't bounce your opponent's creatures, it's just your creatures.
Oh, it's just your creatures? Oh, well, geez, yeah, that's a lot worse than I thought it would be. Yeah, I don't know.
This card is getting worse the more we read it.
If I actually read it, it probably would have been more upfront about how bad it is.
It's just a chode.
Yeah, we're not playing this in any of our decks, I don't think. Not even Commander, we don't want this. Unless you're playing like Veil of the Nightclad, then yes, all the bounce your own creatures effects. All right, so we're gonna go straight into our main topic here. We've actually got a split topic. So first off, we're gonna ask Nikachu some questions about his career, because you've played very high level tournaments as a pro, and like you said, you've grinded out RPTQs and PPTQs, and I'm sure you've been through various iterations of the tournament structure and all that.
Yeah.
How long have you been?
Realistically, you're probably up there with someone who's played the Merfolk deck more than anyone else, and I don't think that's an exaggeration.
Yeah, sure. I'm also, well, I mean, there are much stronger pros than me that have piloted this deck, but they definitely didn't hang on to it. Um, and so at this point, I'm definitely one of the best Merfolk players in the world.
So how long have you been playing Magic for?
Ooh, well, I mean, I started in 1999, maybe 1998, somewhere around there. But I only played for a few years, maybe 2 or 3 years around that time, and then I dropped the game, and I picked it up again in 2010, and I only played it again for, I think, 1 year. And then when I came back the very last time, I think it was the beginning of 2013. I could be wrong about that, but I think it was the beginning of 2013, and I realized, okay, you know what? I keep coming back to this game, so let's learn how to play it really well, and let's take it seriously. And since then I've stuck with it since. So I guess it's been about 5 years or so since I returned back to Magic.
So when you were jumping back and forth into Magic, were you playing standard, or was it more kitchen table, or were you jumping into the more competitive formats? Because I know you're known for your modern legacy.
So when I started back in 1999, I guess it started kitchen table like, but I immediately looked for tournaments, and those were standard. So I was playing standard back then. Variance was really low, because back then net decking wasn't a very big thing. I mean, people sort of knew what the decks were, but I played the deck that was clearly winning more than anything else. And I did very well. I went like first or second place in a lot of tournaments quite comfortably, just because I can't even say I was even that great of a player back then, but I was just playing a super powerful tier 1 deck, and that's all that I needed to do. Then when I quit, when I came back in 2010, again, it was just standard. Yeah, I think maybe Legacy was starting to get popular. I don't know if Modern even started back then, but I just know that I was playing standard at that time. Then I dropped Magic again, and then when I came back again, it was with standard. But I played standard for about a year, waiting to get into Modern, because I knew about the other formats. I knew about Modern, I knew about Legacy, and standard was fine. It was a way for me to get back into competitive Magic. But I knew I was going to move to Modern and Legacy at some point, and I started gathering some cards for those formats. But I knew eventually I would move into Modern.
So what attracted you to playing Merfolk? Because like you said, you kind of bided your time playing standard, kind of getting things together for Modern, and I'm sure being a very competitive player like yourself, you looked at every possibility, I'm sure, going into Modern.
Well, not sort of, not really. Going into Modern, like the clear deck was like Splinter Twin at the time. It was like I should probably play Splinter Twin, nothing else. It was like the strongest blue-oriented deck. Back then, it was like Birthing Pod, Splinter Twin, or Affinity. Pick your choice. And so I sort of picked Splinter Twin as like a long-term goal to get into. What happened is during Standard, this Mono Blue Devotion deck, I don't know if you're familiar at the time, there was this Mono Blue Devotion deck that featured Master of Waves, and it clearly crushed the Standard Pro Tour at the time. And I thought, oh my god, this is exactly what I love to play. So I put aside the idea of going into Modern. I'm just going to play Standard because I love this deck. I love everything about it. The evasion, the creatures. Master Waves was an amazing card. It put like infinite devotion on the battlefield, and it made all my opponents really sick to stare down this creature. So I got really used to this mono blue deck. And then there was a point where I was going to get into Modern. Now, my first deck was Bogles, because I thought it was like just a good entry-level deck. Well, I think that's what a lot of people think, that Bogles is a very good entry-level deck into Modern. Turns out that's not entirely true. It's like just a super high variance deck that does not have that high that high of a win percentage. It's also really hard to sideboard with as a beginner to Modern, because I got crushed by Spellskite. I had all these Dismembers and Path to Exiles in my sideboard, but I'm like, well, what am I using this for against this deck? But it turned out every deck had Spellskite, every single one, and I just got annihilated by like 20 games straight. I'm like, to hell with this deck, I'm not playing with this thing. I had to look for something else. And I had Master of Waves, and I'm not exactly sure how I got introduced to Merfolk and Modern, but I had Master of Waves already. I had Mutavault, because that was a card in Standard. So I thought, okay, let's try to play Merfolk, and it was very similar to the Standard deck in a lot of ways. And so that was my foot into that ended up being like the real deck that I wanted to test the waters with and learn the format until I could buy into Splinter Twin.
And then, as we all know, Splinter Twin continues to dominate to this day.
Yeah.
it's
See, everything happens for a reason. Splinter Twin would have gotten banned. You would have gotten pissed off. You would have quit Magic, and you probably would have won some money in the stock market and have a
probably
by now.
So I'd say it must be fair to say that Master of Waves is your favorite Merfolk then.
Oh yeah, Master Waves is just amazing. It doesn't have that effect that it used to have, because there's just so much now removal for Master of Waves. Path to Exile, Collective Brutality, Fatal Push. There's now a new kill non-legendary creature removal spell. So there's a lot of answers to Master Waves today that there weren't a long time ago. Kozilek's Return also. There's a million answers to Master of Waves, unfortunately. But it's still the card that can make people really sick to their stomach about it. Even as a 2/1 creature, people play Anger the Gods and realize, I still can't get rid of this stupid 2/1 that's hitting them for damage. And now I'm playing Phantasmal Image recently, and I am getting back to those game states where people are really feel really gross about Master of Waves. I'll play Master of Waves Violent Phantasmal Image, make a zillion tokens, more than Master of Waves could do just normally by itself.
Yeah,
and they're all 3/2s.
I got to do that on stream the other day, and it felt pretty amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
It's very powerful. It's a powerful thing to do.
All right, so now you've picked your deck. You've picked Modern Merfolk as your go-to, and as you said prior to this, when you got into it the third time, you're like, I'm gonna double down on this. I want this to be a thing. If I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it hardcore. So when did you kind of curve that tendency to want to learn as much as you could about Merfolk into content creation?
Well, when I picked up Merfolk, the first thing I wanted to do was find out, okay, how much can I learn about this deck? I have to learn immediately. I just want to play it by myself. I need to find out some information about it. So I remember the very first thing I saw was some Channel Fireball article that had a Merfolk list that didn't even feature Master of Waves. It was just Old Lords, 4 Phantasmal Image, 4 Mare Regery. I thought, well, okay, this is a pretty cool deck. And I was playing it, and it was it felt sort of okay, but it wasn't winning. It was just losing. So I found MTG Salvation, and lo and behold, I was really, really lucky. This was really lucky timing, because this MTG Salvation threat was around for forever, and it was really big. Merfolk was a very popular archetype, even though it wasn't winning at all. It was considered tier 3 trash. 2B Platinum Pro Petter Sokric was just got himself introduced to the MTG Salvation forum, the Merfolk forum, and he said, "Look, I play on the Pro Tour. I went 7-1-1 on in the Modern Pro Tour with Merfolk. I know what I'm doing. Let me help you out, you guys. Let me help you guys out." And that was just fantastic for me, because I like to learn from authorities. I'm as much as the community can help you, that's fine. But when there is an actual authority, you want to absorb as much as you can from him. And to my absolute surprise, almost everyone shrugged him off. He had a completely radically different version of the deck. He had main deck relics, he had Tectonic Edge in the sideboard, he had four Master of Waves in the main deck. These things look really normal now, but they were completely bizarre back then. He only played 2 Mare Regery and refused to go up anymore. He said no to Phantasmal Image. You couldn't have any Phantasmal Image in the deck. So he went right against the grain to normal convention, and everyone disputed everything that he said. They said, "Oh, Relic has no place. If you're going to play Relic, why don't you just play Tormod's script?" They didn't understand any of the ideas. So whatever, they didn't learn from him. But I reached out to him to make sure, hey, you obviously know what you're doing. You're playing at the highest level and you're winning with it. What's going on here?
Yeah.
And we had some very brief conversations at first, but he gave me some incredibly vital advice that could help me top 8 some PTQs that I attended. And then after that, I had a few more Skype conversations with him to really learn and understand the core of the Merfolk deck. So I guess what it came down to, so how do I curb that into content creation? Well, it was really, well, two things. First, I was always interested in YouTube. I love the idea that anyone can make content and make it big if they know what they're doing. If they have, I don't know, the right idea, they can connect with their community. And another thing is that it was pretty obvious to me that all these ideas, a lot of Magic the Gathering ideas aren't best explained in text. You really have to see it to believe it. So a lot of these theories and ideas that Petter had for Merfolk, as much as he could explain it in the forum, it didn't matter unless you actually saw how it worked. So I thought, I want to get into YouTube and I want to practice YouTube. Well, I'm playing Merfolk in Magic the Gathering right now. Let's just make a Merfolk channel at the moment, see what happens, just to practice before I would like make a YouTube channel for something else. And well, that's how it started. And in the end, I ended up not making a YouTube channel for anything else because my growth with this YouTube channel just kept growing and it didn't stop, didn't stagnate or plateau. So I've kept up with it ever since.
Yeah, you grow pretty tremendously. I mean, just from the your videos and stuff like that, just looking at the viewer counts. The every time you read off a patrons list, it's like you're reading like 7 or 8 new names, and it's crazy, just to see how much you grow, and it helps helps all of us that are doing this because there's a lot more of us than I guess there were. And that's actually what I wanted to do. Was I was like, well, I'm getting into Merfolk. I'm going to make a YouTube channel. And then I was like, well, I want to find out and see if there's anybody doing this already. And then I found you and Merfolk Joe kind of basically doing the same thing, which is, walking you through games, talking about deck techs, all that sort of thing. And so I was kind of like, well, how much do we need a third YouTube channel?
And, I mean, if it's valuable, then I think there could be like 10. If there were 10 experts, I think everyone would be watched.
Well, sure, and we've had new ones come out even since Matt and I started this podcast. But
right.
So it's Green Ranger is doing pretty good stuff on his channel as well. So shout out to Green Ranger. What do you think about? I mean, obviously we've seen a lot of Merfolk very recently. What do you think about the support that WotC has given Merfolk in the last couple sets?
Well,
this is kind of an op-ed piece.
well, because like Ixalan came out and we had really high hopes for Merfolk, and it was really disappointing that they were pushing green so hard because that was very restricting. If you ever play green, then you're going to be weak to Blood Moon, so you're going to make a gigantic concession right there anytime that Blood Moon is going to be popular. In addition to that, nothing was super pushed. Like, Kumena Speaker is nice, but it's really hard to build around Kumena Speaker to make sure you have the green on turn 1. Like, everything was really restrictive, so it wasn't anything beautiful out there. The only card that looked like really amazing to me was actual Kumena, and in the end, just the creature just wasn't good enough. So there was a lot of high hopes for Ixalan to be good, but it just completely fell short. And surely we sort of got a new variant out of Merfolk in the form of Swolefolk, but it's not dominatingly better than Mono Blue. It seems to be like a situational meta call to go that direction. Whereas the last two important printings, Merfolk Trickster was amazing. Like, that was a really good compensation for the failure of Ixalan and Rivals of Ixalan. So there was so much opportunity for great Merfolk in that set. There was nothing amazing. Merfolk Trickster is now going to be a great staple to the deck. It fixes a lot of problems. The fact that it's flash helps a lot. So it can slow the opponent down, which is good, and we're already a clunky deck. It helps us block flyers. It helps us. I mean, the fact that it removes all abilities is quite amazing. It's a very unique effect. Helps us against like Tarmogoyf, obviously, but it helps us against flyers, and they help us against infect by making them lose infect. So, and not to mention, because it's flash, we can hold up counter spells, and if they don't play anything important, then we flash in Merfolk Trickster, and all of a sudden we've increased our board presence. So Merfolk Trickster was a fantastic addition. That did help a ton. And then they also printed Mist Caller, which is maybe not necessarily. That's also a meta-dependent card, but it's a very powerful card. It's a 1-mana counter target basically counter target Coco or Court of Calling, or mess with your graveyard strategy in some way.
I agree with you. I think Mistcaller is going to be one of the ones that's going to see a lot more play as the new metas start evolving, especially in Legacy, with the emergence of Sneak and Show coming back.
Yeah, I have tested it out in Legacy myself. It's single-handedly won a game against elves. I mean, when they go Green Sun Zenith, and you go Violent Mistcaller,
right?
Then like they're just kind of like, okay.
And I was really depending on this thing to resolve.
Yes, and basically the biggest thing is like, a lot of the things that people want to use Mistcaller for, like Aether Vial activations or anything like that, those are optional. Like you tap the Aether Vial and then you can put something in. You don't have to. But with Green Sun Zenith, that is no, you are doing it. And the same thing with like Exhume, all those reanimate effects. You're doing it. You cast a spell, you're doing it. And so those are all. It's definitely
happening.
It's powerful. Happening. It's a powerful card. I think it still needs some time to figure out where exactly it's going to land. But you're right, and I've said it on this podcast. I think that Merfolk Trickster is a good example of like the type of Merfolk we'd like to see going forward. As you alluded to, the Merfolk in Ixalan were fine, but they weren't game-breakingly better, and I remember even WotC coming out and saying, oh, there's going to be a legacy playable Merfolk. And I remember everyone kind of, freaking out about it. And then we got Kumena, and it was like, all right.
Yeah. Was this supposed to be it? It's possible it was supposed to be Mistcaller, and they pushed it to M19 for some reason.
Yeah, that's plausible. But we obviously won't know that until Vice does another documentary in 20 years. So,
Sure.
So I guess we can just go on to the next thing. Matt, do you have any other questions for Nikachu?
I do have one question. This is actually probably the most important question. Where did the bunny come from?
Oh, where did the bunny come from? The bunny so I was originally a professional poker player, and as I was rising up within the poker ranks, every month people would post their graphs. Generally, people just post their winning graphs. Sometimes people post their losing graphs, but mostly it's their winning graphs. And there are people I'm just winning. I just won $250 this month, but it pales in comparison to people who are posting graphs of $150,000 or $500,000 or $10,000, anything outrageously large. So I figured, how on earth do I gain everyone's attention? So what I started to do is I started drawing bunnies on my graphs with little cartoons and stuff like that. And immediately, I was an absolute hit within the online poker community, and everyone was expecting my graph, win or lose. What is Nikachu going to post this time? And it was so popular. People liked it so much that it became associated with me, and I carried it all the way to this Merfolk channel.
Now you've got the Bunny of Waves playmats and the Bunny Guide playmats.
That's right, exactly.
I'll be honest with you, it worked because that's how I found you. Is I was prepping for a GP, so I was just trying to watch every Tron matchup I could find because that was the deck I was playing. And I saw you were playing against a Tron opponent, And I'm like, who's this bunny guy? And then all of a sudden I saw him, like he's got like 40 videos. So at the time I didn't really care so much about my job. So I'm like, I'll just start watching his stuff because he's got a lot of content.
Yeah. Great.
So definitely worked.
Maybe I should bring it back.
100%.
I have a nice high resolution version of this bunny thing now, so I could use it as my new thumbnail.
You really should.
I would definitely, for those custom thumbnails, like have the bunny in different positions or doing different things. Like, yeah, it'd be interesting.
At least make it a Twitter poll.
Yeah, it would.
All right, so we're gonna briefly go over just kind of generally because this was this Pro Tour that we just had, Pro Tour Magic 25, the big 25th birthday of and actually today I believe is the birthday of Magic. So happy birthday, Magic!
Yay!
So
should we sing?
No,
right.
No, we're not gonna sing. Well, I'll add in the Jack Black birthday song from Saturday Night Live in somewhere, but so this was a team trios event. So there was one, each team had 3 players, one playing standard, one playing modern, one playing legacy. So
and if I had my way, this would be the only way they would do Pro Tour tournaments from here on out. It was so much fun to watch.
Oh yeah, I mean I didn't catch very much of it, but I did, following it in text, on updates from Magic, it was definitely interesting to see just like, oh, like I never thought there'd be a huge event where I'd say like, oh, there's Sneak and Show, like that sounds so odd to say that at a Pro Tour somebody was playing Legacy. But we're gonna go through format by format and kind of talk about what we think about Merfolk in those formats. And this is just kind of a 50,000 foot view, so we're not going to be going super into anything super in depth, but we did want to kind of just briefly touch on all the formats. We're going to start out with standard.
Oh, and I'm keeping us on a timer. We're getting 7 minutes per, because we're not going to have this be a super long episode because Nikachu's got stuff to do.
He's got bunnies to draw.
He's got a lot of bunnies to draw.
Yeah, now that we've got him on assignment.
People need those bunnies.
Truer words have never been spoken.
At least not on this podcast. I think those are the most true words that have ever rung through the speakers. So standard. We've got the metagame pulled up here, and these statistics are widely available. I know that MTG Goldfish was tweeting these out. We saw 0 Merfolk in standard, and I don't think any of us would be surprised about that.
Yeah,
really.
I think when they printed Ixalan, they were trying to make Merfolk a standard deck, and it just, as Nikachu said earlier, they didn't make anything powerful enough to push the deck over the top.
Yeah, so looking at this metagame breakdown card that we have here, there were 66 red-black aggro decks.
Which it ended up being 40% of the field.
Ugh.
Yeah, if you think about like Merfolk trying to break into standard, you have to have like some amazing plan against the mono red deck, which is just incredibly powerful. It's really strong. They have a lot of spot removal, and on top of that, Chain Whirler makes your deck building really restrictive. You can't have too many 1-drops. Like you can draw a few cards off of some Silver Gilded Death, but if they get wiped off the board by Chain Whirler, then that sucks. You can't have any like so no 1-toughness creatures. That's a massive restriction. I played a mono red in an RPTQ. It's so powerful to play Chain Whirler and just hit anything on the other side of the board. It's a massive tempo swing. On top of that, it's a 3/3 first striker, which is hard for like any of the Merfolk to attack into, unless it is unblockable.
So again, we don't want to talk too much about standard because standard is just not in a great place right now, and especially not in a really good place for Merfolk. But we do have rotation coming very soon. And the mistake that was Kaladesh and Almond Cat wasn't as bad, but it still has some broken stuff in there, are going to be rotating. So let's kind of look to the future. With Ixalan still going to be there, we have Trickster, and we have Mistcaller. Do you think potentially that Merfolk could be a deck after rotation?
Oh yeah,
based on what we see.
Absolutely, it's possible. So it's going to be very interesting to see if Merfolk is going to be a potential contender post rotation. because mono red is going to die, and even though Chain Whirler is going to be in the format, it doesn't matter. It's losing all the support cards. So mono red just completely gets crippled.
Steel Leaf is going to be hurt a lot. Grixis mid-range is going to be hurt a lot. Reservoir combo is gone.
Yeah, I would rather that the Stompy decks existed, because I feel like Merfolk would excel against that. Merfolk Trickster, Wire Trap Weaver, stuff like that. But I don't know. We'll have to see what gets presented. The real restriction is just mono red. The deck has too many powerful cards. It has Chain Whirler, which just wipes Merfolk away, or restricts the deck building significantly. But without mono red being so big, Merfolk is totally possible. And we have some we have modern playable Merfolk cards in standard. Silver Gill Adept, in some cases Water Trap Weaver. I have played that card to success. Merfolk Trickster. Even Mistbinder. Mistbinder is totally, Mistbinder and Commander Speaker, these are all legitimate modern cards in standard right now. So I think we can see some good things out of Merfolk going into the future.
I think one of the things that hurt Merfolk in this particular event, I mean, other than the obvious, like red black aggro, just kind of having so many answers to basically what Merfolk is doing. Steel Leaf Stompy just being so incredibly fast. I mean, before we can even react to it, we've got 10-10s coming at us, and I think the biggest thing is that with the speed of the format, having a 2-color Lord really hurts. Because number one, we do have pretty near perfect mana right now, but we're losing a lot. We're losing the fast lands, and so
we're getting shocks.
Hopefully, and you can't always count on having the 2 colors. Turn 1, turn 2, and that definitely puts a hamper on things. And like Nikachu said, once a Chain Whirler hits, most of the Merfolk that you play, turn 1 to turn 3 are all 1 toughness creatures. And we like Silvergill drawing his cards, but we need it to stick around.
So one thing I also want to point out, looking towards the future, is where are we going next? Ravnica. We're going to be getting Simic. So we're already being shoehorned into playing blue-green. We potentially could be getting Shocklands, so we're going to get the breeding pool back, maybe. But Simic, it's not out of the realm of possibility that they go back to having some blue-green Merfolk, or at least some blue-green support cards that can maybe put that deck that archetype over the top. So I'm hopeful. I really am.
We're definitely getting Merfolk. Let's just hope they're good Merfolk.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. So moving into Legacy, this is
real quick. The top 8 for standard was UW Control, Rakdos Aggro, UW Godpharaoh's Gift, Turbo Fog, Rakdos Aggro, Rakdos Aggro. So I think we all would love to see an actual standard game that wasn't just all the same deck.
Yeah. Going into Legacy, we actually saw the only Merfolk deck in all these formats. I don't know if that's a spoiler alert, but we had a Oscar Garcia whose team actually went 10-4, so they actually qualify for the next Pro Tour, which is super cool for him. So
Oscar.
Yeah, Oscar did pretty well, or his teammates did well. Either way, he's there. But we saw a lot of things that I guess you would kind of expect, and even some decks that kind of bled over from Modern, like Eldrazi Stompy, and we even had some interesting Stoneblade
Death
decks.
Shadow.
Death Shadow, yeah, it's
Death Shadow's the big one.
Infect and Affinity and Legacy, jeez. What is this?
They're called Steel. It's called Steel Stompy and Legacy. Come on now.
Oh, well, it says Legacy on this thing, or Affinity on this thing. So, what do you make of this all, Nikachu?
Well, I mean, Eldrazi Stompy was a deck for a very long time. It actually stole a lot of thunder from Merfolk when it came out, because it became essentially like the premier Chalice of the Void deck. And in my opinion, it forced all the other archetypes to make sure they had a good plan against Chalice of the Void, because I think Merfolk really abused Chalice of the Void really well. In my opinion, it leans really hard on Chalice of the Void. If it isn't for Chalice of the Void, it's really hard for Merfolk to compete in Legacy. and because of Eldrazi Stompy, it's made other decks to adjust to Chalice of the Void. So that was but a lot of these archetypes are expected. The only unexpected thing for me was Dimir Death Shadow. Like, I didn't see that to be coming out in such large numbers. I knew Josh Layton was on Death Shadow in Legacy, but he got wiped out at like a Legacy GP in Las Vegas in 2017. So I'm surprised that he brought it out again. Maybe had like a better iteration of it. And then I can only guess that he was friends with other people that playtested with him. Or maybe he got the deck from somebody else who improved it to the point where a lot of people could get on the deck. Like 9 copies of Death Shadow? Are you insane? Like, no one played this deck before. And then all of a sudden, everyone's playing the deck.
That's 5%. Over 5% of the meta was UB Death Shadow, which is just, I agree with you. It's absolutely insane. I've been seeing it pop up, but I had no idea that it was going to be this popular and powerful. It did really well.
Other thing to note is that Josh Layton's team came in second. So Blue-Black Death Shadow, being the legacy deck in the second place team is nothing to sneeze at.
Top 8 was Death and Taxes 1, then Death Shadow, Death and Taxes, Eldrazi Aggro, Reanimator, Grixis Delver, and then Shadow.
Yeah.
So 2 Shadows in top 8.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It'd be interesting to see if Shadow can hold up going on into the future, because I never saw that deck online ever.
So my guess is that actually we're gonna see a ton of it now, because I think a lot of people are gonna try to play Death Shadow in paper and just not run the Underground Seas as more of a budget legacy deck.
I agree. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think they played one Underground Sea, but obviously you don't need to.
Yeah. No, so right now, if you look at the legacy meta breakdown, Grixis Control was the most popular deck at 12%, Sneak and Show at 9%, Eldrazi Stompy at 8%, Death and Taxes at 7%, Temur Delver at 6%, Reanimator at 5%, and Miracles at 5%, and Shadow at 5%. But this is probably the most wide open we've seen Legacy in, I don't know, like 3 years, 4 years.
I had a friend of mine say he was upset that they banned Deathrite Shaman, and I didn't know how to respond to that, because it just seemed like before the ban, like most decks were just like 4-color, I mean, a lot of decks were 4-color piles. I can't say that most decks were, but it just kind of seemed like it lifted a lot of deck building restrictions, and if it just made it go, well, if you could just play all the answers, why wouldn't you? And given unlimited money, you had a mana base that could effectively do that with a Deathrite Shaman.
Absolutely. So Nikachu, with this wide open of a meta, what can Merfolk do to rise up?
Well, I mean, Merfolk has some natural advantages that were stifled a little bit by Deathrite Shaman. Like Ether Vial is still a pretty damn good card in Legacy, but it just sucks much more if your opponent is always ramping themselves up. On top of that, Deathrite Shaman could either keep their life total high or put more pressure on you a little bit faster than usual. So any sort of aggro strategy that we take wasn't ideal, or wasn't as good if our opponent took any sort of aggro strategy. True Name Nemesis is very strong, and we are capable of playing it uncounterably, both through Ether Vial and through Cavern of Souls. And on top of that, we aren't as affected to Wasteland as a lot of these other archetypes are. So a lot of our natural advantages, I thought Merfolk was a very, very good deck in Legacy until every deck turned into a Deathrite Shaman deck. And then all of a sudden, it sort of looked like Deathrite Shaman was making it very difficult for Merfolk to get good. Because we're a blue deck, we play with Force of Will. And I'm just not as concerned about the diversity of Legacy as I am in Modern. The only thing that might concern me is how strong Chalice of the Void can be. Because, like I said, like a lot of your wins should be coming off the back of a Chalice on 1. And there's just a lot more decks that can play Chalice. And therefore, there's a lot more decks that have to consider Chalice in the metagame, and they can't survive. Like, for example, this mono-red prison deck is really annoying, and at least hard for me to beat. I really hate playing against that thing.
Well, it also main boards for the snaring bridges.
Yeah, exactly. It's got all these really annoying cards. Grixis Control also is sort of a pain. I wasn't really happy to see that that was the most popular archetype that showed up to the tournament.
It was
They've
most
got,
popular, but it did not put up the best results.
oh, that's good. That's good. That's what I want to hear. Well, it's lost Deathrite Shaman, so I guess it wasn't that easy to port immediately. And it never was a thing. Like it only became a thing, I guess, because of Deathrite Shaman, and only in the last recent year. I mean, I didn't really see a whole lot of Grixis Control like prior to 1 year ago.
Yeah, and I mean, we also have like, Sneak and Show and Delver and Reanimator, all decks that you would expect to see at any high level tournament.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and
Actually, real quick, for the one thing that I do see here is that the people who have been clamoring that Legacy is too expensive and a deck or a format you can't get into actually lost a lot of legs to stand on because Death and Taxes is like one of the best decks and it's the cheapest right now.
Mhm.
Then you have Death Shadow, which again, if you take off the Underground Seas, is incredibly budget. Eldrazi Aggro is really not that expensive of a deck. Reanimator isn't insane. I mean, the decks that won this weekend are the cheaper decks. So, which I think is good for
Eldrazi requires some of those soul lands.
Correct. But I think when I'm talking budgeting decks, there's ways you can play around having all of them.
That's true. Okay.
Especially in paper.
All right, and so just to speed things up a little bit, we're going to move into Modern, where, as expected, Humans was the biggest showing at Pro Tour 25, with 27 copies in the tournament. Blue White Control also doing some moving and shaking there with 18 decks, and KCI, which has been a very recent addition to the pro scene, also showing up pretty big. I mean, one thing that I've kind of thought about with all of these decks, I mean, there's so many different decks in Modern right now that are maybe not top tier, but are viable, and they have their strengths higher than their weaknesses, and it seems like it's kind of hard to nail down what exactly is the biggest threat to Merfolk. I mean, obviously Humans is definitely a hard deck to beat, and Ironworks combo, if they get their thing going, then it's near impossible to stop. But I mean, what do you think about all this? I mean, I know you've been kind of diversifying your decks a little bit to kind of try and get a handle on all this.
Yeah, well, I mean, any particular archetype is pretty easy to beat, but it's just hard to beat all of them. Like, that's the real question. Like, what do I want to hedge against? And when you hedge, you just water down the entire archetype. Like, I think Humans is very easy to beat, but when there was like so many control decks and Tron decks and Black Green X, then I wanted to play with the Fairy Conclaves. I wanted to play with the Spell Piercers. I wanted to play with the Tectonic Edges, and those are all great cards against Tron, Control, and Black Green X. But they're awful against Humans. They're just terrible. Like, Spell Pierce is a donut, and Fairy Conclave is just tempoing yourself out. So, you beat one thing, but then you start losing to another. And then I didn't mind being a little bit slower against Humans. And then I saw a bunch of Spirits decks pop up. And I'm like, well, can I really lose to this? And then Ironworks is still like a pretty big deck, and you can't really slow yourself down there either. And then the last nail in the coffin was when I was playtesting. Like, what's up with this Black-Red Vengevine deck? Like, when I started playing against this online, I thought, well, this is just a pile of garbage. I've never seen this before. This can't be real. And then I keep seeing it over and over again as I was playtesting. And sure enough, it was like one of the breakout decks in the Modern Pro Tour. I'm like, really? Was it really something? But after that, I'm like, I can't play with Fairy Conclave. The format's really fast. Even though there's control decks, we can't play with Fairy Conclave. But so now the problem is, like, I don't know what the correct build is, because you build in one direction and then you get really weak in another direction, and I still haven't figured out exactly what I want to do against everything all at once.
Which is I think you've probably seen the meme where I think it was even you that posted it, where it was it was like a guy that's like ripped, and it says like Merfolk at F&M, and then it showed Merfolk at the Pro Tour, and it was Bobby Hill.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's it's one of those things that like when you know what you're playing against, you can build appropriately. But against the Pro Tour, where people have access to basically any cards that they want, and they play test nearly nonstop leading up to the Pro Tour, you know the people that would go to your F&M don't play Magic for a living. They just don't. And so
Well,
they're
also there's going to be some budget constrictions at your local events, your for FNMs, but at the Pro Tour, I mean, these are going to be fully optimized decks, and you can kind of see it with. I mean, Humans is a very expensive deck, and it was 16% of the field. UW Controls fairly expensive as well, and that was 10%. Tron is fairly expensive. It's another 10%. So I mean, and then Ironworks is 10%. So 50% of the Pro Tour meta right there is all expensive decks, but it's also as Nikachu was saying, Humans and Tron and Ironworks, you got to go completely in a different direction for all three to sideboard. Whereas you're probably not going to be seeing all three of those at your local F&M, especially not at the percentages that you're going to be seeing them at a Pro Tour.
yeah.
Well, I just wanted to stick in, like, also at your local F&M, after you've played like for 4 weeks in a row, you might see a very clear pattern with what people are playing, and not everyone has all the money in the world to like switch decks on a weekly basis, so you can tune the deck to exactly what you see. Whereas at a Grand Prix or Pro Tour, it's going to be much more wide open. You have no idea what's going to show up.
Yeah, and again, to speak to what Nikachu said, like, Humans is a tough matchup, but it's not unbeatable. It's something that if you build knowing that you're going to fight it, then you can fight against it. But that requires you being as quick and on point as possible. But now, if you try to be super fast against like blue-white control, you're going to have a bad time. You have to slow down, and you have to make your moves. When you see openings, when they tap out, when that's when you have man lands to deal with all the removal they have. Like there's just ways to get around counter spells with man lands, and you can't do both because the aggressive decks are super aggressive. But I mean, I've been playing against the Vengevine decks all the time online now, and I'm getting sick of playing against it because it's just like you'll pass the turn and then they'll just have 6 2/2s, and it's just insane.
Well, we did this last week after we logged off. Kody and I played some Modern, and I think I told everyone that I put Hollow One together to test that out to see if it's a Modern deck that I want to play on a regular basis. And yeah, it was just kind of the same thing. It was way too fast. And usually it was just me like doing a bunch of random discarding and drawing, and you playing like 1 or 2 cards, and it was either I just completely overrun you or I fizzled out and you just won.
Yep. Well, that's also a high variance deck in itself, so that's not.
It's not really. It's a variance deck that's very consistent.
Well, that's fair, I suppose.
Like Hollow One.
Yeah. So I mean, do we have anything really else to say about this? I mean, there was no Merfolk decks that showed up. Obviously, if anyone showed up, they probably had similar concerns as Nikachu when they were trying to decide what they were going to play. Is there's too much in both directions, and you can't fight a war on 2 fronts because you're gonna get smashed. And when it comes to like having money on the field on the table, you're gonna want to play the best deck. Anything else?
Well, and on top of that, like, I know people have been screaming ban Ancient Stirrings to get Ironworks and potentially Tron out of there, but I don't think that's going to do much to shake up the meta. Whether it shakes up the fun factor is a different conversation, but that 20.6% that would be distributed would probably just go right into Humans, Control, Hollow One, and like Vengevine, and maybe kind of sprinkle a few down to some of the more other decks. But for the most part, the top decks are the top decks right now.
All right.
Sure.
And so I mean, we basically we're very much out of time, I'd say. Do you have anything else you want to add to the discussion, Nikachu, before we log off?
Well, Humans, they said humans was the better Merfolk deck. Like, I feel like that is not a Merfolk deck. It's a completely different, distinct Merfolk, a very distinct deck. But spirits, wow, that is a damn close comparison to Merfolk. They have like a superior curse catcher. They already have built-in evasion. But one saving grace is that like a lot of their creatures are still pretty weak. They have a lot of poor toughness, like Rattle Chains and Mausoleum Wanderer and Selfless Spirit. So we still have that. And Merfolk, still, if the metagame was blue enough, and unfortunately there aren't really enough like blue decks. But spirits could be considered one of those. We get like really good natural evasion, and we can put up much more power with far fewer creatures than say spirits.
Yeah, and spirits is again one of those decks that you want to be putting bodies on the field. You can't be wasting your time with fairy conclaves and all that stuff, because those are just too slow. And I mean, Spell Pierce isn't as much of a non-bow as it is against humans, in the spirits matchup anyways. But at the same time, this is a deck that you want to be. You're dropping bodies. You're turning creatures sideways. And that's it.
Well, you got to be cognizant of that Coco, because if spirits get that Coco off, you're going to have a bad time.
And that brings us full circle back to Mistcaller.
Yeah, Mistcaller. Sack Mistcaller. Goodbye, Coco.
Coco? Oh yeah. In response, actually, I have one thing in response. Also, I know. Before we get off, I know that you've said this, Nikachu, and I actually discovered this on accident on stream. Is you can just sack Mistcaller to turn off Bridge from Below. That is not that is not to be underestimated. I think I've played against. I don't get a whole lot of time to play, but I think I've played at least 5 or 6 games against that deck. And once I did that on accident, I just misclicked, and I was like, oh, it's gone. He had 2 bridges from below, and they're both gone. This is amazing.
A happy accident.
Yeah.
Also,
definitely.
keep in mind, you can sack it in response to the triggers, because Bridge from Below still needs to be in the graveyard when those triggers resolve.
Oh yeah, so then it just fizzles the triggers.
Yeah, so they could, like, for example, you make them waste, like, I don't know, a Walking Ballista on 0 to get the triggers, but then you sack Mistcaller, remove Bridge from Below, and then they don't get the tokens.
Okay.
That's actually a really good point, though, for sideboard tech, because realistically, we're probably going to start seeing a lot more Vengevine, because it not only was it one of the more popular decks of this Pro Tour, but it did really well. It top 8'd at 7, but the top decks were Hollow One, KCI, Humans, UW Control, Vengevine, Hollow. So again, and Hollow One is another deck that is cheating creatures in. So maybe Mistcaller is becoming a modern card.
Also, Vengevine.
I've got 2 of them in my deck.
Yeah, you did run 2 of them. Also, special note for Vengevine, that's another May ability. So when the trigger goes on the stack, you can sack Mistcaller, and then they could just choose to not do it. So I thought I was being clever. I think that's actually probably where I misclicked, and I was like, oh, I've got him, and then it didn't happen. I was like, oh no, but then the bridges all went away, and so it ended up being kind of a point neutral mistake, I think.
Now the story comes full circle.
Yeah.
It wasn't a misclick. It was a misplay.
It was a misplay.
Which makes a lot more sense.
I may have had 1 or 2 adult beverages to accompany my stream that night, and that definitely leads to more misplays than you would when you're fully alert. So thank you very much, Nikachu, for coming on the show and talking about these formats and talking about your history with Magic. We really appreciate you coming on. Where can we find you on the internet? If somebody for some reason found us before they found you, where can they find you?
I apologize.
Yeah,
also,
I'm sorry.
I mean, it happens all the time. It's really good that well, first off, thank you very much for inviting me. I really appreciate it as well. And it helps a lot that there's so many Merfolk content creators. I want more Merfolk content creators, because the thing, it exposes the reach for Merfolk, or for people who are looking for Merfolk content. And then as they find one person, they end up finding another one. So if you're here first at the premier Merfolk podcast of the world, you can find my YouTube channel at youtube.com/NikachuMTG. And you can also find me on Twitter and Facebook at Nikachu MTG on those respective sites.
Just follow the White Rabbit.
Follow the White Rabbit, that's right.
What's funny was actually somebody tweeted at us and said, "You need to stream more because I'm watching Nikachu and I'm watching Merfolk Joe." He's like, "You need to stream more so I have more Merfolk content to watch." And that's
Right.
and I went and found Green Ranger and I was like, "Hey man, like, this guy, he's trying to find more." And so like like you said, a rising tide lifts all boats. We all kind of just feed people to each other, and that helps us all grow. So, and we have a tenacious enough fan base supporting the deck that, where else where are people going to go for Merfolk content? I mean, like Corbin, does Merfolk every once in a while. The Professor does Merfolk every once in a while. But if you want something consistent and you want to learn and you want to become better, you have to find the people that are pros like yourself or just enthusiasts like myself and Merfolk Joe.
Absolutely.
Because we're the people that are going to slam Merfolk on the table night after night.
And there's a reason why Merfolk, as a tier 2 modern deck right now, has had the longevity it has without, at least right now, the results. And that's because it's just a damn fun deck. I mean, anybody can sleeve it up and just have a really good time. I mean, you can play KCI and you're going to win, but no one's going to have fun, including the KCI player.
Also, make the KCI player play out the combo every time. Make them do it, because I've done it where I've forced somebody to play it out and they misplayed.
Just make sure you have snacks.
Yeah. Go to the vending machine real quick. Grab yourself a water and some chips and just
popcorn.
Popcorn. Whatever your snack of choice is, so you can watch the KCI machine continue on. Remember, you can find us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook as @FishcastMTG. Personally, I'm at not Cody Smith on Twitter. And Matt, where can we find you?
I'm at Matthew Caudill 8.
If you have a long-form question, feel free to email us at fishcastmtg@gmail.com. Our cover art was made by Tessa and Hunter Pruitt, and if you like what we're doing here, please rate and subscribe in the Apple or Google Play podcast app stores, as well as patreon.com/fishcastmtg to support us monetarily. Believe me, we're still working. I've had some trouble with the stream overlay that we got. The fix also didn't fix the problems, but our artist is super great in helping us, with revisions. So people have seen it and they like it, but it turns out you can't just cover up your opponent's life total. It makes for a little bit less than pleasant viewing situation. So
and this is why we're doing the Microsoft Office episode next week.
Yes, something Microsoft. I'll think of something clever to edit in here afterwards. Thank you again, Nikachu, for coming by, and we will see everybody next week.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Queen. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, buddy.